Okay, so in this lesson in Cinema 4D, we are going to start talking about animation. And I will admit a couple things. I'm a little intimidated. Animation inside of Cinema 4D is really complex and there's a lot to it. So I'm basically going to preface this by saying I'm going to show you what I can do in animation and how animation works for me and some of the tricks I've learned along the way. You will continue to explore Cinema 4D and learn all kinds of new tricks and other things you can do, but these are some of the fundamentals of how animation works in Cinema 4D. So I just made a cube here. I'll make this a little bit smaller. I'll hit the T key, make this a little bit smaller here, and we're just going to turn the camera so we're facing this way, holding down 3, and I'm going to go to the move tool. Now down the bottom, you see this very limited timeline down here, and so this limited timeline has some basic controls here. There's a play button that will play this. Right now I have my project set, so if I hit Command D, and I go to my project settings, you'll see that I'm at 24 frames per second and I'm going from a rate of 239 frames. So it goes from 0 to 239, which is basically 240 frames. And so that is 10 seconds. So I have a 10-second, timeline here and a project here, and I have this here. So I have the play forward button, play and pause. That is the F8 key. Here's the thing about Cinema 4D. If you're familiar, you know that in every other program you work with, whether it be After Effects or Premiere or even QuickTime, spacebar is play. And here, spacebar is not play. Spacebar actually switches you between two tools, the selection tool and the move tool, or whatever tool you're working on and the selection tool. It switches you back between previous tools and the selection tools. And that is kind of sort of a selection control, which is in other programs, but it isn't play unless you are clicked specifically on the timeline. If you know, Cinema 4D is very context sensitive, so you'll find yourself getting to this problem where you're like, oh, spacebar, except I was clicked over here. And when I was clicked over here on this window, it's not play, and spacebar is not play, except when you're clicked, literally, if the last thing you clicked on was on the timeline, it is the timeline down here. Otherwise, F8 is the play button, which doesn't make any sense to me. Why would F8 be the play button? That makes no sense whatsoever. Well, it makes sort of sense because, F8 is actually the play button on my keyboard, so F8 is play forward. Who knew? Who knew that F8 was play on my keyboard? Yeah, I don't use it anymore, but F8 in here would play and pause and do that. So that is there. I'll show you some other ways to play there. But you can obviously scroll through the timeline. You can see that this shows you the frame that you're on. This scrolls between 0 and there. You can go to the beginning of this, which is basically Shift F and Shift, I don't remember, Shift F and Shift G. Take it to the end of this, take it to the beginning of this. You then have this window in here where you can zoom in and zoom out. You can also slide back and forth. You can also increase the total length of time right here. Or you can hit Command D and go back to your attributes, Command D, and see there and see your total length of time there. Also, as a detail, we are using animation and set to linear. So we're not using spline type animation. That is the default to spline. I have switched us to linear, so we are in linear animation. So we're here with this cube at the beginning here. Now I'm going to show you first the way in which I wouldn't animate. And this is a way you can in fact animate, but it's not a way that I would animate. And I know, why am I showing you a way that I wouldn't animate? Well, because I feel like it. We're going to go to coordinates here. Actually, we're going to go just to the cube, go to basic. And I'm going to take this cube and I'm going to move this cube over here to this part of the screen. I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so you can see a little bit more, and we're going to have the cube over here. So at this point here, I'm going to turn here at the very beginning at the 0 point, I'm going to hit this button. And this button right here is the record active objects. It is the F9 key if you want to keyboard for it. And this is to record active objects, and this is to record position, rotation, and scale, and parameters. So this is recording all of these things. It's not recording point level animation because that has been deselected and it has a little X through it, and the X through it says don't record point level animation. But we're gonna record all of these things here. And we'll talk about why I wouldn't do it this way, but I do wanna show you it. Here's the truth, honestly, I'll say to myself, I don't do it this way and I don't work this way. Sometimes, I do kind of work this way because it's really quick. So in this case, I'm going to hit this and it's going to record active objects and it's going to add a keyframe. Now the keyframe is really super small. You'll see it right here. Man, Cinema 4D loves to make things really, really super tiny, really hard to see there in there. But we do have there, we made a keyframe. We can click on it and have that keyframe highlighted and it will show you some of the values of that key. So at the 0 point there, it is at 0 point now, and it says key value is mixed, and that's mixed because, well, it's actually controlling position, rotation, and scale. So it's doing all, and parameters as well. So we're doing it there. So we're going to go to a later point in time. So we're going to move this. So we're going to click a value. We are going to go to a later point in time. Let's go to 48 frames. That's 2 seconds later. And now I'm going to change the value. So I'm going to move the position to someplace new. Now, this isn't like After Effects. This doesn't record all the animation instantaneously. There is another way to do that, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for now, we're going to grab this and pull and grab here and move to here. So we're changing the value. And now we've changed the value, but we haven't recorded a keyframe. We still have this first frame right here. We haven't recorded this keyframe at 48. So now we're going to hit this button again. You have to hit this button each time to record the active objects, and then it makes a line. And so here, we've recorded this animation from here, and it made a little motion path, little position path, and it shows you there. What I like about this position path is it actually changes the position path from white to kind of this weird kind of blue. Whoops, I just deleted everything. Command Z undo. There, it changed the position path here from there to there and moved the position path, so it shows white to blue. So it shows you actually the progression of which way this is going. So we'll go to a later point in time. We'll go to 96. Actually, we'll go to 96. We'll go to 96, and now I've changed where we are in the timeline. I'm going to move this to here, and I'm going to record. So it's a 3-step process. Change the location of the timeline, move, change the value, record. So we've added another keyframe. So now we have a keyframe here and a keyframe here. We're going to go to 144. Again, another point in time, we're going to move to here, and we're going to record the active objects. And so we have that recorded there like so. And then we're lastly going to go to 192. Now at 192, I want to go back to this first point here. I want to go back to this first position here. Now I could click on this one, hit Command C, go to here, hit Command V. I could do that as well. But here's a good old trick. If I click on this one, you know that when I hold down Command in Cinema 4D, I will duplicate automatically. So I can do that with keyframes. Remember, if something works someplace in Cinema 4D, like duplicate by command dragging and pulling down, command drag and pull down makes a duplicate. If that works there, it'll work here as well. So command drag will make a duplicate of this keyframe and put this, whoops, I just slipped a little bit. Let me undo there for a second. My mouse is being really not pleasant to me today. So we'll click on this guy, we'll click on here. We will hold down command and pull to here. And we'll pull that key from there and it goes right to there. So I can duplicate keyframes right to there. So now I have this motion that goes like this, and it goes across this box into these random positions here like so. And that works. That works as an idea. That's a perfectly acceptable idea. That works like a charm. Amazing, fantastic. Did the job there. Now, let's say, for example, I want to go from the beginning of this. Let's take this at the beginning of this. Let's record active objects again. And let's go to the end of this. And at the end of this, I say, let's hit R for rotation. And I want this to rotate around a bunch of times. So we're going to move to a different position, change, move a bunch of rotations. We're going to rotate this, 1,264 degrees. And I'm going to set record active objects. And I'm going to hit record active objects. So that recorded the rotation from here, from the beginning to the end here. Except it's going to do this. It's going to play and play and play, and doesn't rotate at all. And then it rotates a whole bunch during that last point. Well, here's the problem. The problem being is the way that this did this was it recorded all of these active objects at every single point. So at this point, the rotation was at, here, if we go to coordinates for the cube, was at 0. And here, at this point, the rotation parameters were at 0. And here, the rotation parameters were at 0. And then here, at this keyframe, I changed the rotation heading to 1264. So it only went from 0 to 1264 here. And that's because previously I had recorded all of the active controls and all the things there. Now, there's a couple ways to avoid this. And way one, which again is I think a harder way to do this. I'm going to make another cube. We'll make a cube, we'll make it a little bit smaller. T key, make it smaller. We'll start this animation again. We'll go here to the move tool and we'll go to here and move this over to here. So way one I could do this, which is again, I think not really worthwhile. The way to do this is I could say, in this case, I want to turn off rotation, all these other parameters. The only thing I want to control is position. So I only want to control position. I'm not going to actively control these. So I'm not recording active objects. The only active object is position. Here's position. Here's position. Record. And again, you have to record this every single time. I'm going to move to a different location. Now I'm going to move to, now I did this the wrong order. I moved to a different location, except now when I move to a different time, it just jumps back to there because it said, hey, this was the last keyframe that you had was there. Sorry, let me go back to 96 there. I'm going to go back to 96. We'll move to a different location here and record. So it's move, change, record. Move timeline, change object, record. We're going to go to here, move, change, record, but now I'm only recording position controls. And then lastly, we'll go to here and we'll just move to here, close, somewhere close, move, change, move to right about there, cool, and record. Boom. And now I'm only recording position changes. Now I have these position changes from here to here to here. I can obviously grab these suckers and move them exactly where they need to be. So I do have the ability to grab and move to exactly the same place, and I have this kind of motion there. Now I could say turn off position and turn on rotation and record rotation changes as an idea. And this would record my rotation changes from here to here. Again, I'll wrap this around a couple times, 12 something, and record that. Now it's going to record the rotation changes throughout, and we'll do the rotation the entire time. What was it, F8? There's my rotation throughout the entire time. And again, this is another way to do this. This is another set of controls that I have that allow me the freedom to move these like so. And I can do the same thing for scale. I can do a separate one for scale and a separate pass of animation for scale, turn off rotation and then do scale or do anything else in terms of attributes that I want to adjust. I'm going to delete this. We're going to do this one more time, except now I'm going to do this the smarter way. And the smarter way would be to do this. Take the cube. We'll make the cube smaller. You've seen this again and again. I know. It's redundant at this point. Big Ben Parliament. Anyway, so now we have it here. If you look here at the controls, we have the controls here. The position here, I'm going to move the position to something specific, maybe negative 500. Awesome, we're exactly negative 500 here. You will notice that next to each of the controls here, next to position controls, next to rotation controls, next to the scale controls, I have little diamonds. And these little diamonds can turn on and turn off. So I want to move positions. So let me just turn on all the positions. I'm just going to drag all the positions and drag like this and drag and turn all the positions on. It's going to make a keyframe right here at all the positions automatically. Now I'm going to go to 48 frames. I'll move again. And instead of clicking this for position, I don't even care about what I'm hitting here. I'm not going to use these at all. I care about going here and saying, let's update position. And now I have a blue line for position. So now I'm only controlling position. I'll go to 96. I'll move position. I'll go here, I'll update position. Now, argumentatively, I'm not moving the Y at all, so I probably don't even need to update the Y because I'm not animating the Y. But for me, personally, I could do this a little bit more complex and I can make this for each position individually, but I'm just gonna turn on all the position values there and change all the position values. This to me feels more like After Effects because it's usually one position value unless you separate them. I'll go to here. Let's see, where am I at? What am I moving here? I moved from here to there. I didn't even change my position here. So here's a problem. Okay, so here's what I did was, I made a mistake. I didn't move I was talking about After Effects and I got excited and then I stopped doing what I was doing and I'm not doing anything properly at all. I'm making big, huge mistakes. So let's fix my mistakes because I wasn't paying attention. So here, what I did is when I was at this position at 0, so I was at 0 and at the 0 keyframe, you will see the dots are in red here, and the red dots, they're filled in, or the red diamonds are filled in here. These red diamonds mean a couple things. It means that this is the position that I'm on, and this keyframe represents this value here. If I go off of this keyframe, it moves and it says, hey, I am not parked in the keyframe anymore. The red diamonds are now hollow, which means I'm not at the position, but this position, negative 25 here, is accurate. So this is clearly accurate in terms of what it is. This is what it should be. If I were to drag off of this, if I were to drag over here and pull like that, it would say, hey, your Y, whatever your Y is, this is not accurate. This is not what the keyframes are doing. And so it gives me a yellow. It gives me a yellow Y. What does that mean? Filled in means I'm parked in the keyframe. Not filled in means I'm not parked in the keyframe. And so yellow means this value of whatever this is not really honestly what's happening. You just changed this, but you didn't record the change, and so this is not accurate. So let's take a look. A second I click on here and start to move this, it's going to jump back to here because it says, hey, you moved to here, but your keyframes are here and here, and you can't, undo what the keyframes are saying. You can't just ignore what the keyframes are saying. You can obviously undo what the keyframes are saying, but you can't ignore it. So now we're here, we're there. Now when I go to here, I say, for example, I want to move to here. I want to update this keyframe. Well, it says right now, I am parked in the keyframe, but this number, negative 825, that's where I am, but that's not what this keyframe represents. The second I click away and click back, it says, no, the keyframe represents 490. That's what it should represent. So the second I move this, it says, hey, you either need to update this keyframe to make it red, or you need to do something else different. So I'm going to hit record and update this keyframe. Okay, now it says I'm parked in the keyframe, and it's updated. So red means the value that you're looking at on screen is the value that the numbers are reading. If the numbers aren't reading what the value is on the screen, or the numbers aren't reading what it should be reading, you have a yellow. Filled in means I'm parked in the keyframe. Not filled in means I'm not parked in the keyframe. This is updated. I'm going to go to this last point. I'm going to go to here. We'll go to here. We'll go to here. And then it says, hey, I am not parked in the keyframe. There's no keyframe here. I am not parked in the keyframe. And these values, the X and the Z values, are not the same thing. And the Y values are actually the same thing because the Y is actually at 0. It hasn't raised up off the ground at all. It's still at 0, and it's perfectly fine. And so we have that there, and now it's updated there. And obviously I can click and pull these and pull this exactly the same place. Boom, and hit them right there. And so now it's moving across this path and doing this. And that's just for position. So here with a cube, you notice I'm just adjusting position. If I want to adjust rotation, I'm going to go here to rotation, and I can say, okay, now rotation on the heading from here to here, I want to change this to 1250. And again, these colors say, hey, there's no keyframe here, and I'm not on the keyframe here. I'm going to record. It's going to make this red, and now it's going to rotate along the whole path. And so I can change all the values for this. And I can say, okay, let's go to the object controls. And the object controls, I'm going to change this on the Y size. I'm going to make the Y size bigger from 48. We're going to record the Y size to 144. Change the Y size, make that bigger, make it taller, and record that. Now it's going to change between here and here. It's going to change the Y size and become bigger between there and there. And then maybe here, I'll go back to 110. Boom, and we're going to come back to regular size. And so I'm going to record that. If I don't record that, it does not record automatically. There is a feature here that I rarely ever use to auto keyframe. That is the Command F9 key. That is auto keyframe. It's this button right there. It's a little tricky because it works with everything you do in here, which is not necessarily the way that I like to work. And so it's a little bit more complicated. It's more like After Effects theoretically, but I end up making a big mess for myself, and so I sometimes kind of avoid it and watch out for it here. And so I have this and this, doing this animation inside of here. Good enough for me, and it's doing there. But now I can control everything. So with all these things, with any place where there's a diamond, if I say at the end, towards the end of this, between here, I want to fillet this to have a rounded edge here. We're going to make the fillet radius, we're going to add more subdivisions, and we're going to make the fillet radius 0, so it's no filleting. And then we'll record that. We'll go to 168. We'll have a lot of filleting. Super, so you can really see this. We'll record that, and then we'll go here to 192, and we'll switch it back to 0. No filleting, record that. Again, move in time, change the value, record. Those are 3-step process for every point. You're making keyframes. Boom. If you've made keyframes in After Effects before, this should be easily to understand. And so now it's keyframing out and keyframing in. You can see the values of the fillet radius changing. There, you have that control there. If we want to add a deformer to this, if we said, hey, let's add a bend deformer to this, we'll fit the bend deformer to parent. Cool. Now the bend deformer's on the parent. And while this goes from beginning here, we want the bend strength. We'll add some cube sides here. We'll add some segments here, maybe 10 by 10 by 10. Whoops. Cube segment sides, 10 by 10 by 10. We'll add some cube segment sides here, and we'll say, great. We're going to have this, the bend deformer here. Let's reset this to parent, so this is actually fitting the parent appropriately here. And so here, we're going to say here, at the beginning of this, the strength is going to bend here, At 48, it's going to bend a whole bunch. Record. At 96, it's going to bend back to no bend. Whoops, that's negative 360. Let's go back to 0. And record. And so now it's going to bend a lot and then unbend as it goes. Now even the bend is being animated. So we're animating the bend. We are unanimating the bend. We have it bending out and unbending. Unbendable. Amazing. If we want to go here and go to materials, for example, we can create a material, a new material. We'll put a material on here. Double click, put a material on the cube. And we're going to say for the materials, we'll open up the material. At the beginning of this, the color control will change from this gray color. Record that. We'll go to another point in time. 72. We'll record this color change so it colors to blue or purple. Record that. And at the end of this, we'll record this and it'll change to red. So we'll pull here to red and it'll change to the color red and we'll record this intensity of this color red. And so now we're changing to blue to red. Now it changes from blue to white to blue to red. And so we can record those changes. There are a ton of other changes of other things we can do. Everything comes with these little diamonds on the end of these. So the color, the cube, all the attributes, the name of these things, the viewport visibility, the coordinates, the object controls, the filleting, everything that exists can be animated. There's so many things we can animate just by changing the points at random places, these random keyframes, and represents there. Now I want to show you a couple quick things about this timeline. I don't necessarily love this timeline. It's a little bit tricky, but I'll show you some things. If this is really big, so say for example we changed our timeline to say 600 frames. And made this super long. These points are really hard to click on. I mean, if you get really close, you can click on them and hit them right, but sometimes you can't, and sometimes you miss them. So I'll show you a quick trick. Down here, if you zoom in, you can see them a little bit better. You can see them really small, but then you have to zoom in a lot, and you have that zoom functionality, and you can go through and click on them there. But if you notice here, there's this little tick mark down at the bottom here, underneath the numbers of the keyframes. This is counted in terms of keyframes, not in terms of seconds. It's not time code. But in terms of keyframes, there's a little tick mark. And this little tick mark is interesting because what you can do is, if you're really zoomed out really far and you can't really see your keyframes, or if you want to select multiple keyframes, you can actually drag across the tick mark, and you could grab in this keyframe right here and just highlight it and then grab this keyframe. And if you want to move this whole keyframe, you can move this whole keyframe over just by grabbing on this little ghost line. You have this little ghost line down here that you grab in. So just to show you close up, to show you how that works, we want to grab these three keyframes, 48, 72, 96. We could just ghost across here, grab all three of these, and then we can move all three of these however we want to move them across these keyframes for these values. So if you wanted to move the values or change the values, you could do that there. Another cool thing is, we'll go back to 239 here. Another cool thing is if you grab all of these keyframes, so say for example we grabbed from here, whoops, we'll grab from 192, we'll grab all of these keyframes all the way across there. Now we're grabbing all the keyframes are highlighted, we can move all the keyframes, we can delete all the keyframes. But the one that I really like is right here at the edge here. If you look right here, at the beginning edge and at the end edge, or particularly at the end edge in this case. But right here, you'll see this little highlighted ghost line. And this little ghost line is filled in, and this ghost line. And then at the end of the ghost line that I grabbed, you see this little point right here. You see a space, and then you see a little ghost nub. And this ghost nub allows you to expand the animation or extrapolate the animation by grabbing the ghost nub. That's what I call it. I don't know if it's called the ghost nub, but I like the word ghost nub. And you can make the animation quicker or slower based on how you expand these and grab like there. This is the equivalent of, say, in some of the program like After Effects using the Alt key. So here I can just grab the ghost nub and shrink this down or enlarge this back to what it was. So I have those controls there. So if you want to make animation, you want to have these animation controls, you can see that, you can grab these, and you can move them whole by grabbing the entire ghost line, or you could expand them from either side and contract them down to make smaller or larger animation with the ghost nub. Trademark that. Make sure you get my credit from that one. If all of a sudden, Maxon starts calling it the ghost nub, feel free to say that's a Chad reference. That's a Chad reference there. So again, we have the ability to go backwards a frame. We have the ability to go backwards to keyframes, and we have the ability to go back to the beginning and end, and the function keys. So you have Shift F Command F, F, F8, G, Command G, and Shift G. Those are your keys. They're going to jump you back and forth. Again, spacebar will only work if you've been clicked down here, and then spacebar will work. The second you click away and click onto like over here or onto the material or something like there, all of a sudden you're like, it's going to drive you crazy. It used to drive me crazy all the time. I'd be like, why is this not working? Well, because you're not clicked here. But I will show you another trick that I did learn from a guy named Ryan Summers, who's a much better Cinema 4D animator than I am. He calls this the Jedi trick, which is if you are here on the screen and you're in the blank space, anywhere in the gray viewport area, if you hold down J, the letter J, hold this down and you drag back and forth, you can play forward and play backward anywhere without having to click down here in this little area. You hold down J like a Jedi, and you can just drag across and play your animation just by dragging across the screen. So that's a little functionality. I'm holding down J and it will just drag me anywhere I am. I'm just dragging back and forth. I'm not even on the timeline. I'm not there. I can just be like, let me just watch this animation, see what it does. So that is a trick. That's a trick. That's hidden. It's hidden inside the world of Cinema 4D, a thing you can do, the Jedi trick. All right, so that is some basic beginner animation. We've done some beginner animation, but again, just so we're clear, all of these controls, any of the size controls or the coordinate controls or even the Fong, which we haven't talked about, anytime you see a diamond, anywhere in Cinema 4D you see a diamond, man, that diamond means it's animatable. So we can animate tons and tons of stuff, lots of things that we can do in terms of basic animation to really make this work. Okay, so let's move on. I want to show some more advanced animation, or advanced as far as I'm concerned. I think we got the basics down in terms of there. You can play with this a little bit, but we're going to go in here and I'm going to load up an object here, and I'm going to steal something from Cinema 4D. We're going to go to all, and I'm going to look for the train. The train. I really like the train, the toy train. This is the toy train scene. And this is the toy train. It's going to load up this toy train here. There's a lot going on with this train. It's really nice. It's made by Pavel Zak. It's a fantastic little toy train. It looks really cool. We're going to zoom out a little bit here. And I'm going to delete a couple stuff in the toy train. I'm going to get rid of the camera because I don't really want the camera. I just want the toy train as it is. We'll go back to view frame default, and we'll have the toy train. And oh, that's really far away. Let's zoom in. I don't need everything else here. Let's get rid of the information here just so we have something easy to work with. Sorry, Pavel. I'm going to get rid of the toy train here. Get rid of the floor. I don't want it. And I'm actually going to get rid of the sky as well. Cool. We'll go back to the toy train. Really simple toy train here. So here's the toy train. We're going to move around and see the toy train. And the toy train consists of two parts. It consists of the wagon, which is cool, I guess, if we want the wagon. But we're going to stick with just the first part of this train here, just to have something to work with. Just to have something to play with here as an idea. And we'll grab, the train is actually two parts, and it's two parts in this null. I'm going to pull out the locomotive. Just pull out the locomotive just so I have the locomotive by itself. Now, it's really nicely built. Whoever made the toy train, Pavel, great job here. It's got a bottom block here. It's got glue somewhere in here that holds it together. It's got an axle, and then inside the axles, there is a wheel. And there's actually wheels. This is a wheel, and this is a wheel instance. So this other wheel will move the way the first wheel is moving, but I actually want to make this really more kind of basic because using the instance is really kind of cool, but I don't really want that. So I'm just going to take this instance, delete it. There goes that wheel. And I'm just going to take this wheel and we're going to say, hold down command and duplicate this wheel over here. Just so we have two wheels and they're actual wheels. They're not duplicates of the wheel. And I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to call this, we'll just call this axle. I'm going to call this back axle or axle back. Axle back, and we'll call this back. I guess that would be the right? We're going to call this back. We'll call this wheel BKRT, which is wheel back right, and we'll call this one wheel BKLT. I'm going to do this again really quickly up here. We're going to call this the axle front, and here I'm going to take this one. We're going to get rid of the instance. The instance just saves us some time and saves us some energy. We're going to call this one, we're going to duplicate this, command drag and duplicate this over here, make a front wheel here. Amazing, cool. And we're going to take this one and call this one wheel FTRT, which is front right, and we'll call this one wheel FTLT. So this is wheel, front, right, and front, left. So we can take this and we can say, okay, let's do this. Let's take this locomotive, the whole locomotive. Let's move this. Let's rotate this a little bit this way. We're going to kind of come on this axis here. Let's see which axis we're on here. We're going to come back to the x-axis. We're going to come out this way. And we're going to take this and move this inside of here. Hit the E key, and we're going to move this over to here. I feel like I'm on the wrong axis here. Let's see. View, frame default here. Put it there. Okay, so this is the way I want to be. Excellent. So I want to be in there. Fantastic. We're going to go here, go to the there. We're going to turn around this way. It feels good. That feels good. Okay. So we're going to look at the locomotive. We're going to grab the locomotive, and we're going to just rotate the locomotive this way, just so we fly across screen this way, inside here, and we're going to go from here to here. So we're going to go to the E key, and we're going to move from here to here. And I'm going to move this from there to there. Now, thing to be careful of, I didn't make this. Somebody else made this, so I'm going to go to Command D and look at the animation. The animation right now is set to type spline. I'm going to switch this back to linear. Actually, you know what? I'll leave it for now. I'm going to leave it in spline-based animation just to show you what happens. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to hit Record Active Objects, or let's just go to Locomotive. Let's go to Coordinates and record position. So we're going to record position. We're going to set position here. We're going to do all three of these because I don't know which one I'm adjusting. And I'm going to go here to 30 frames. This is based on a Command D, a 30 frame per second project. So the animation here, the project is 30 frames per second. It's not necessarily the project I want to work in. I like working in 24, but you know what? We're going to keep in 30 because we're going to respect whatever happened. We move to a different place in time. We're going to change location. We're going to record. And we recorded this animation going from here to here. Now, this has spline-based animation, which means it speeds up and slows down. We can make this a little bit longer. We'll just drag this keyframe over to go across the full 90. And we're going to have this go over 90 frames. You're going to see this is going to speed up and slow down. And so I have that control to speed up and slow down. I could click on these keyframes. When I click on these keyframes, I could change the key type property from spline to linear. And then click on this one and change this one from spline to linear. And now it would be spline to linear. It would be a more linear path. Constant rate of motion there. Now, if I want this to speed up and slow down, maybe I do. Maybe I want Command Z, and maybe I want the animation here to speed up and slow down because that's the way, I don't know, that's the way trains move. They speed up and they slow down. This is more of a speed up and slow down look. But that's up to me. But what I do know is that if I'm putting this in After Effects by default is linear animation. It does linear from point to point. And so maybe I want this to be the same as After Effects because I like working with this in conjunction with After Effects, and I like how they work together. So yeah, maybe I do want the animation to be a little bit more structured, I guess. Structured, in a way. I'm going to make this a little bit longer, so we'll leave this at 90 frames. I'm going to change this to a maybe a 300 frame project, so it's 10 seconds long, and now I have this here. So I want to show you the next part of this, which is to really animate this. We could go into one of the animation modes up here. We could go into the old layout modes and go to the animation-based mode. But what we want to do here is we want to go to Windows and go to Timeline Dope Sheet. Shift F3. Shift F3, the Dope Sheet. What a horrible name. The Dope Sheet. Or maybe it's like 1980s hip-hop and you're like totally dope. Yeah, otherwise you'd be totally whack. You know. Anyway, we have this thing called the dope sheet. And the dope sheet is really, really what you want in terms of if you're working in After Effects and you're like, man, I really want to see keyframes and a timeline. I want to see this broken out. I want to see how this looks. Man, you probably want something more, you know, clever. And in terms of clever, I think the dope sheet is there. Now, can I open this there in the dope sheet like this? I could, but I don't need to actually. And here's why. Because here, I can go to Windows Dope Sheet, or down here, you see this little diamond right here, this little big diamond, and that says that, hey, it opens up the dope sheet, and we got the dope sheet right there. Oh man, look at that. Look at that. Now I feel really After Effects like. I feel like I have that whole After Effects vibe. So let's take a look at this here. I have my timeline here. I can roll through my timeline and see my timeline. Other things I can do. I can open up these and see, okay, I have timeline for the position changes. In the position changes, I have position for X, position for Y, and position for Z. I can see all three of these position controls. I could expand or extrapolate this animation or reduce it there. So I could grab the entire group of these and move the whole group up here and say, let's move everything quicker or shorter and make the animation quicker or longer as I need to. So I could do it there. So I could do my animation inside here. I could also grab my whole animation and move my whole animation to a different point in time and do some of those controls like that. So I do have some of those abilities in there. But let's take a look. Let's take a look at, we're going to do this a little bit more simple, and we'll do this a couple different ways here. So we have this animation happening like here. We can grab this. We're on position Z, so let's grab the whole thing. Let's move the whole thing. We can move the whole thing there. Make sure you clicked on everything if you want to move everything. Otherwise, if you clicked on just Z, I'm only going to move the controls for Z, which will move the position controls and move some locomotive controls, but I'm only moving the controls for Z. I made that mistake several times in my life. I can expand the entire animation this way and make it all smaller, or make the whole animation bigger or smaller. And so if I have other things going on here, so let's say, for example, I want these wheels to move. So let's take a look. We'll grab this right here at the 0, and this is going to animate this way. We're going to animate forward, and we're going to say, okay, simultaneously in terms of this moving, this is moving like this. We'll go back to here. This is moving from here. It's moving from there to there. And we're here. We're moving along here like so. Great, fantastic. Except I want to go here and I want to say, let's take one of the wheels. Let's take the front right wheel, and we're going to take the front right wheel, and we got to figure out which is the right way to rotate. So we want to rotate the front right wheel. We're going to hit R, and we're going to rotate on the, which I just moved 30 degrees so I could see. I believe that's the pitch. Yeah, that's the pitch. Anyway, so we have the pitch there, so we're going to rotate the pitch, and I don't know, over 90 frames, over 3 seconds, maybe it does one full rotation. So we're going to go here, we're going to rotate the pitch, we're going to add the pitch, and all of a sudden the pitch, the wheels, the locomotives, here, the locomotive's wheel rotation P control shows up. And we're going to go to here and say at this point, we're going to type in 360. Again, change the value, add another keyframe. Now we have a wheel rotation pitch. So it has it broken down in terms of categories. So it's the locomotive's position, or the locomotive's wheels rotation. So it's broken down, and then it has each of the values for each of the parameters. So this gets really robust in terms of how it's organized and how it's put together. There's a lot going on here. Okay, so now we have this wheel rotating like this. I hope I rotated the wheel the right way. No, I rotated totally backwards. It should go to negative 360. Wheels don't move that way. Come on, Chad, you know how this thing works. It works in counterclockwise. We changed the wheel position, so we're at a new position, but this is still at 360 recorded. We're going to update the recording. There, now it's going to rotate this way. I'm going to go to the materials here, just as an idea. I'm going to go to the beach polished here. And the beach polished, I'm going to go to the bump and crank up the bump a little bit, just so you can see more of the grit of the wheel. Really see how the wheel looks, because it's really hard to see. We can zoom in a little bit just so you can see there. And so now you can see the wheel actually rotating. So now this one wheel is rotating. And I don't know if that's the right wheel rotation speed. I don't know if that's appropriate. I don't know how much a wheel would rotate in the time, but we could figure that out. We can make that move however we wanted to. Sure, it looks great. Looks like a wheel is supposed to rotate there like so, but the other wheels aren't rotating. So we don't have the other wheels rotating appropriately. Okay, so what are we going to do? Now, this is where it gets tricky, and this is where I make mistakes all the time. Okay, so deep breath. Here we go. First off, I made a mistake already because I have this thing on. This is the region tool, the activate the region tool. So I don't want that on because I want to be able to click on these, and I want to see that when I click on these, this is highlighted. Now, right now, it's only showing me the things that are animated. So if I go to view, nope, go to filter, filter in here, filter, it says show display animated only, display animated only. So we're gonna turn that off, and it's gonna show me everything. So here's everything. Here's the axles and the wheels and the materials and the roof and the textures and the cylinders and the HDRI and all this other stuff, all these other controls that I have that all could be animated but not are animated by default. So here, if I go here and I say, let's take a look at wheel front. Wheel front has this rotation. So I'm going to make sure that I'm clicking this rotation. When I click in the position, it should highlight all of this here. Make sure it does. And now I'm going to do edit copy. So I'm going to do Command C, edit copy. And I'm going to go to the wheel front, and I'll go to the wheel front left, this other wheel that I can't even see. And I'm going to hit Command V or edit paste. And I'm just going to copy the rotation from one to the other. And now both of them are rotating here. Can I see that? No, I can't even see the other wheel, but I believe that the other wheel is rotating. And look at that. Both those wheels totally are rotating. This other wheel rotating as well. You can sort of see it there. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. Both the wheels are rotating. This looks great. I'm going to go to this back wheel, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I still copied the wheel's rotation. Let's go to the wheel back left. Let's find the back axle here. This is going to be a little bit tricky. The back axle. Onto the back axle, I have the wheel back right, and I can just click on the wheel back right here, and I should be able to just hit Command V. Make sure it copies the rotation over, and now I have the rotation of the back right wheel rotating. I'd have to come around to the right side to really see if that's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Yeah, both those wheels are rotating. Now, I don't even know, someone who knows a little bit about locomotion will understand whether the back wheel should rotate at the same speed as the front wheel and whether it covers the same space. That's a scientific question. Wheel back left, I'm going to cheat a little bit and have this here, and so these wheels are all going to rotate. So now, even these wheels I can't even see are rotating. Fantastic. Amazing. Like so. I can have this here. Now, right now these wheels are rotating. Great, so now I have this animation. So I can obviously copy animation from one place to another. Now what I'm also gonna do, just for fun, is I'm gonna look at this, and I'm gonna look at the, what is this thing called? This thing right here. This is on the front stack. The front stack, I'm in the front stack. Right now the front stack is gonna go here. It's going to say, let's say we animate the front stacks. Here's the front stack. We're gonna animate the front stack's position. And we're going to go to the position here. Now, I don't have the controls for the position controls. So I'm going to go here to position, and I'm going to say position Y. I'm going to animate a control there, and all of a sudden I get a keyframe for position Y. I'm going to go about, let's see, at 30 frames a second, I'm going to go about to 15 frames, and the stack is going to reduce down and go into this a little bit, just a little bit. And I'm going to add another keyframe here, and add a keyframe, boom. And then I'm going to go to 30 frames, and I'm going to bring this back up to where it was here. And again, I can see the values. If I park on this keyframe, I was at 1.4339. I can actually just grab this, copy this, Command C, go to here. Hold on, go to here at this point, copy this, Command V here, and then record that, and we'll go back up. So now I have this motion going of this stack going. I thought this would be fun, just have the stack going, boop, 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 boop. Yeah, we can make this a little bit quicker. So if we want to make the stack a little bit quicker, we can click on the stack and change the stack speed to be a quicker, up and down. So now it's only going up and down once, and it's going there like so. If I make this longer, if I make this, say, I don't know, 60 frames or 80 frames or 600 frames, and make this longer. So this is now 600 frames. If we look here, and we look up here, we can see that this animation is going over 90 frames. Now, weirdly, it's only showing me the 90 frames, even though this is 600 frames. Or even if I made this, I don't know, say I made this back to what I had before, 300 frames. Even if I make this 300 frames, it only showed me the 90 frames. And I used to struggle. This was a pain in the butt. I used to struggle. I was like, how do I zoom in? Where do I zoom in? There's no I can scroll up and down. But how do I zoom out or zoom in? Well, I know that if something works in one place in Cinema 4D, it works everywhere in Cinema 4D. So in order to zoom in and zoom out, I can hit 2 key and zoom in and zoom out. Well, here, hold down the 2 key and I can zoom in and zoom out and show more. I can also hold down the 1 key and move over and start at 0 and go to zoom out. Whoops. Let's grab from here and say, let's zoom in, zoom out. Let's grab all of this animation. And now I have all 300 seconds or all 300 frames. It's 300 seconds, that's a long time. 300 frames of animation just by using the 1 and 2 keys. So the same thing that works in terms of there will work in anywhere inside of Cinema 4D. This is one of the things I love about Cinema 4D. You try something one place, it works everywhere. So cool. So now I have this animation of this train going like this. We're going to reduce this a little bit down to here. Pull this down a little bit and have this be here. Better animation going on. Works for me. Amazing. Cool. Next to the dope sheet, you'll also see in Windows something called the F-curve. This is the F-curve. This is a different thing here. F-curve window. Well, you can get to it right here. Again, if you're in the dope sheet, this little button right here gives the dope sheet, and then next to the dope sheet is something called the F-curve. Now, the problem with this is that here, if I go to the F-curve, you will see, if I go to the locomotives, not position, well, forget about position values here. If I go here to the, let's see, let's focus on the wheels rotation. So we're going to focus on the wheels rotation. And now I can actually switch my filter just back to animated only, so I'm only looking at the animated stuff. So let's go to the wheel, let's see, what do we start with? Wheel front right. We start with front right. Let's look at the wheels rotation on the front right. Now, this is not showing me the wheels rotation because it's somewhere here. I could zoom out here and see the wheels rotation down here. Hold on one, focus on the wheels rotation here. This is not necessarily what I want. This is not good at all. I could also go to here and go to frame and say frame, auto frame mode or frame all, and frame this out there. Okay, so now a couple things about this. Right now what this is doing is the wheel's rotating like this and it goes to here. Now I sort of like this, but I don't want this wheel to do a accelerate and decelerate because right now it's only showing me the 90 frames. I'm gonna hold down 2 and zoom out and show me more of the frames. And so I can look at this here. We'll make this a little bit bigger. I do want to talk about this. This is going to get a little weird, but we're going to work our best here. Okay, so this is what we have. This is going from 0 to 360, and it's actually going slow and speeding up and slowing down. Well, I don't like that, so I'm going to highlight this rotation, and I'm going to highlight both these keyframes. I'm going to drag and grab in both these keyframes, and you see that it has this spline kind of animation, this kind of curved animation that speeds up and slows down, kind of like an easy ease in After Effects. Well, up here, I can go and say, let's switch this from spline to linear. Boom, and now it's going in linear animation, it's going there. Notice what happens here. This little red line goes from 0 over to 360, or negative 360, because it's going in counterclockwise. So it goes here from 0 to negative 360 and goes to there. And then you see this little black line that just stops. Well, here, what I may want to do is I may want to switch this here and go to functions, track after. And instead of constant after, which means it stays at 360, so function track after, I want to go to continue after. And what does that do? It makes the line, the black line, go down this way. And what that will do is it'll keep spinning, and so this wheel keeps going. Look at that. Now the wheel just keeps moving. So this wheel is going to just move forever. This would be the same thing as making some kind of a loop out expression inside of After Effects. But here, I can do this just by controlling it here and having this control. Just the wheel's going to, I know it's hard to see. You can barely see it here. So if it makes everything really small. But here, you can see the wheel's just going to keep going for the rest of this sequence. There, it's just going to continue forever. So now the wheel never stops. All right, let's do this with the other wheel. So let's go to here. We'll do this again. Wheel back. We'll look at the wheels back. Now, if I had this in spline motion and I did function continue after, it's going to continue after going straight because here it kind of levels out. And since it levels out, it's not a straight line going down. This track after won't do what I want it to do appropriately. So here we're going to go to, first we're going to click on all of this. So we're going to grab all of this here. And we're going to grab both these keyframes and say both these keyframes. We can switch from linear to spline, to ease in, to easy ease, to ease out. We can actually control that. But we're going to switch back to linear so that there's a line going this way. The line has to be going downward in order for it to continue to go downward. Function track after, whoops. Function track after, I keep moving. Function, take your time, track after. I'm just going to pull this off. Cool, track after. And I want this to go. Keep moving on to something else here. It's a pain. Gonna move this up a little bit. Track after, continue after. Sometimes it gets a little bit weird, a little bit finicky. Again, all these controls get really scary. Can I hit Command A? No, that clicks on everything. Wheel rotation, this wheel rotation. We're gonna go here. We're gonna grab all of this, and we're gonna say function. We're gonna switch to linear first, and then say function track after, continue after. Cool. And then I have one more wheel, right? I have one more wheel. I didn't miss the front one here. This one. Cool. Let's grab all this. Let's linearize that. Let's go to function, track after, continue after. Cool. And now, all the lines are going straight down this way. Now these are going, all these wheels are going to continue to spin. Even after the time stops, it just keeps rolling. Just keeps rolling. It's like a country song. Man, whew, yeah. Just keeps rolling there. Now I have this little stack doing this. So let's take a look. Let's play the stack a little bit. So stack's going to do this. I always get this one wrong. This is the one where I'm going to get it wrong. I told you I'm going to get something wrong here. Here's the stack. It's only going in this little amount here. We could go this and we could say frame selected, boom, and have this. Okay, so this is going like this. It's going here, down and up. This is this little space there. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Move this over. Zoom out a little bit smaller. If I pull left to right, I zoom horizontally. If I pull up and down, I zoom vertically so you can see what's happening here. This is tracking after like this. And so it just does it once and stop. But I want this to repeat. So there's a couple different options here. And under function, track after. So let's grab all these keyframes. Now this will work even if it is in some kind of a spline animation. So if track after, there's that mouse again. Keep clicking on something else. Track after. There's repeat after, offset repeat after, oscillate after, and loop after. It's a lot of options. They all matter depending on what you're doing. So let's try all the options here. We're going to go through the whole gamut here. We're going to go to repeat after. Continue after would just keep it going straight. Repeat after will do that. Ooh, that works perfectly fine. So that's here. Repeat after means it's going to keep doing It's going to keep chugging along and keep doing it. So that works automatically. Cool. Let's do function, track after, offset, repeat after. That wouldn't do what I want to do because that's going to keep it moving up, I guess. Or maybe it won't because it comes back down. Here, we can even do it this way. Let's go back to the dope sheet. Let's go back to here and let's delete these keyframes. We're going to delete these and just have up and down. So we're going to take a look at what up and down will do. This might be an easier way to work. And it will actually explain the differences. So we're going to do position. It's only going from up to down. It's going like there. We're going to grab these keyframes here. Make sure you grab the keyframes. Function, track after, repeat after would do this, which is not what we want to do because that's going to only go down and then jump back up and then jump back up and then jump back up. So it looks kind of weird. Yeah, that's uncomfortable. Undo. All right, function, track after, offset, repeat after would do it there and keep going further down. Because it's offset repeating, that's not what we want to do either. Function, track after, oscillate after does this. And so we only need two keyframes, the beginning and ending of the animation, and it will oscillate back and forth. It'll go from forward to back to back to forward, and oscillate after would be the better way to go. There's always a bunch of differences between there. Let's just, for one more, we'll try loop after, just so we can cover everything. Loop after, yeah, that's not what we want at all. Let's undo that. I don't even know what that does. Track after, oscillate after, and then we only need two keyframes, make our world easier, work smarter, not harder, and we can do that animation there. Anyway, there's a bunch of other stuff we can do with animation. We're gonna look at some other controls of animation. We're gonna look at some tags to do animation and some different things we can do in animation. But I think this is a good ground floor. I wanna show you one more thing. I'm gonna show you one more thing. This will take a little bit longer, but it'll be one little extra bell and whistle that'll make your life easier. We're gonna close this window out. So we're gonna close this out of here. Another way to do animation, particularly for position, would be to do this. We have this right here, and we're going to go here in the locomotion, and we're going to go up into the top view. And we're going to look here in the orthographic views, and we're going to go here to top view, and in the top view, we're going to look at it like this. So this is this here. We're going to go to the position controls, and we're just going to delete the position controls. Maybe we'll open up the dope sheet again. We'll go to locomotion, and we'll go to locomotive's position controls. We'll grab those controls and just delete them. Goodbye, position controls. There's no more position animation here. We'll close the dope sheet out. I do want to show this to you just as an idea. So now we're in top view here. I did that by going up here. If I haven't shown this before, the orthographic views, toggle active view. We can go back to perspective view, but I want to do this in orthographic views inside of here. Oh, we've done this before because we've made splines before. Yeah, okay, so here, we've gone here. I'm gonna take the spline pen, and I'm gonna draw a spline that starts here. We're gonna click and drag and pull a curve this way. Maybe we'll pull this way. We're gonna come around here, pull this way. We're gonna pull to there. We're gonna pull to there. We'll pull, I don't know, to there. And to there, and we're going to come back to here. Cool. And we're going to go to there. All right, I'm going to draw the E key. So now I have the spline that looks like this. And then we're going to go to locomotive, and we're going to right click on locomotive and go to the animation tags. These are tags, little things that go on the end of little objects here. And we're going to align to spline. Align to spline? What does that mean? Well, it says, hey, this is going to align to the spline, but it asks for a spline path. This is really quick. Ask for a spline path. Well, we just drew a spline path. Guess what, buddy? We just drew a spline path. And we're going to go here to drag this into here. You got to do this in one slow motion because if you click on the spline, it's going to click and show the spline controls. We want to go to the tag right here, the align to spline tag. We're going to drag and pull. Really quick, one motion. And now it has a control here for position, and position goes from 0 to 100 and it will align to the spline. And so now we can animate this. So we can say, let's animate this at the beginning at 0. Position is 0, and we'll go to maybe 300. We'll go to the full 300. And at 300, we're going to crank this up to 100. So we moved in time, we changed the values, we recorded, boom. And now it's going to animate across here and play this back so it goes across this entire motion. Now I can tell this is doing a bit of easy ease, so it's speeding up and slowing down. It's easing into motion. If I want to, I can go in here and I can say, let's go to the here and let's go to the align to spline tag and look at the align to spline tag. Let's go to frame and say frame selected. So now this is what this align to spline is doing. And then we'll switch this back to linear. So it's linear. I feel like a linear motion might be better. We could actually control this if we wanted to. We wanted this to have a spline motion, but not as such a drastic spline motion. We could pull this back a little bit and have this be, you know, just a little bit of speed up and slow down. We didn't need to speed up and slow down over the whole thing. Now it's going at a constant rate here. So we look here, we can go back into F1. F1 is or the perspective view. We'll go here, we'll zoom out a little bit, and now this is going across this path. Look at it go. We'll close this out for a second. So you can actually control your animation and make your animation do whatever you wanted to in that F curve sheet. And you're like, yeah, but that doesn't look right, Chad. I mean, it's sort of doing what it's supposed to be doing, but clearly a couple problems. First off, it doesn't turn with the spline. Like now I have to rotate it with the spline. No, silly. You just go to align-to-spline and choose tangential. Tangential. And that will follow the spline and rotate along the spline. And now it drives around and goes around and does its thing and goes to there. Isn't that fun? If I'm animating position, I'll tell you what. Using a spline to just decide what my position is, that's really the fun. Right now it's aligning across the z-axis. If you go to your align-to-spline control here, click on your align-to-spline, you'll see it's controlling across the z-axis. You could also have it align across the y-axis or align across the x-axis. That would be weird. I mean, if you wanted to do that, but no, clearly we want to align to spline tangentially across the z-axis. So the z-axis needs to be facing, if you look at the locomotive, the z-axis is facing, so it's following this blue line. And it's using that as the z-axis. If you wanted to go backwards, you'd have to change the z-axis, but that's for another day. Anyway, we've done some cool animation. We've done everything that I can do in animation and made some fun animation. A little bit of a longer lesson. There's going to be more to animation as we continue to explore more stuff. There's probably a dozen things I forgot to mention, but again, we'll add it maybe as an addendum. This is how we do some animation inside of Cinema 4D. All right, cool. Thanks very much. We'll do some future lessons in After Effects and Cinema 4D, and as well as some other programs, and we'll talk about how they all work together and things we can do. All right, I'll see you in a little while.